Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I, the one and only Maxi here, and I am back for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos once again. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Sonic the Hedgehog, in some cases Sonic the Hedgehog 2006, for the Xbox 360/PlayStation 3. So, last time we did somehow begin Sonic's story by experiencing the first town mission by going through rings, which is awfully familiar. And on top of that, we also did manage to went into Wave Ocean, and usually speaking though afterwards, we did somehow manage able to take down the first boss in the game, which appears to be Acropolis, despite the fact that it only has one head instead of three. So yeah, I'm a little bit more optimistic about the forms of the Greek mythology kind of stuff. And on top of that, we did somehow carry Princess Elise all the way through Dusty Desert, and that level is relatively harmless to me anyway, because obviously with no mark speed section, and there's only one loading screen on that particular level. So yeah, that's as far as I can say about it. And in addition to that, we also did manage to kick Silver's butt in the forms of the second boss, in the forms of in a Sonic story. So yeah, relatively speaking though, despite the fact that Princess Elise has been captured yet again, because we somehow got interrupted by the forms of Silver the Hedgehog, in some cases a newcomer for the Sonic franchise. So today for this video is about the fact that we still need to go after Princess Elise by still able to experiencing by the forms of exploring through Soliana, and as you can tell we ended up in the forms of the next town mission, which is mandatory by the way if you want to progress, which appears to be Who is the Captain. That is by far the shortest town mission in the whole entire game, because as you can see, we did somehow beat the forms of this particular mission for under 5 seconds, and that was the first person you need to talk to, by the way, in order to able to actually proceed, because otherwise though, yeah, it's a kind of a pointless mission, despite the fact that you can able to finish that mission in a total breeze. So yeah, that's basically all there is to it. And usually, relatively speaking though, we've got ourselves the easiest S rank, and relatively speaking though, because I already know this game so many times, ironically enough, especially concerning for the fact that, well, you totally get the idea of how that the actual things itself is proceeding through. So, and as you can see, is since we did somehow complete that particular town mission, we can now able to proceed to the next segment, or in some cases the next section of Soliana, which appears to be buddy forms of New City. So, yeah, relatively speaking, it was about the fact that we need to find our way to, let's just say, the warehouse, so meet at the warehouse, so that's the destination we're about to head off to next. So, yeah, a few things we want to explain for this point today is that, well, today's date of course here is the 14th of February today, in some cases in 2024 today. And for those of you probably wondering, happy Valentine's Day everyone, especially concerning for the fact that, well, relatively speaking, you can able to spend some time with your loved ones, and some of these other people you love the most, and you probably name the rest of it though. It's also worth noting for is about the fact that, did you guys know, it's been 4 years ago since when the Sonic the Hedgehog movie, specifically the 2020 release of Sonic the Hedgehog the movie, did somehow eventually became 4 years old today. So yeah, it's unbelievably crazy about the fact that that particular film has been out for a very long time, especially concerning for the fact that obviously we've already got not only Sonic the Hedgehog the movie, but it's also with the forms of the Sonic the Hedgehog 2 movie. And eventually we'll get ourselves Knuckles the series until at some point until 2 months time now. And in addition to that, Sonic the Hedgehog 3, the most highly anticipated films I was really looking forward to for 2024, just because I just cannot wait to see Shadow the Hedgehog on the big screen. So, relatively a cool thing to be excited for. So, anyways, here we go on to yet another town mission where basically we need to take down all of these enemies at the warehouse. And, yeah, for the most part, this mission is not too bad. It's just about the fact that, well, sometimes I will admit though right away, it's about the fact that it can be kind of feels a bit repetitive at one point when it comes to dealing with all these enemies in Journey Forms within the Sonic story. Because not only because the game attempts to lag a lot, specifically on the PlayStation 3 version, mind you, but it's also worth noting for us about the fact that the actual homing attack feels a bit kind of delayed, during the forms of this game in particular, because it was supposed to be a little bit more faster, but as a result, unfortunately for the final product, basically though, we have to deal with the forms of the homing attack delay. Especially noticeable, you have to keep an eye on with the forms of how in fact you need to pay attention to the animation, not just by the forms of Sonic, but also with any other playable characters for that matter, which we'll explain more details about that if we continue proceedings for this game. So, and also, if you couldn't tell, after we somehow beaten Silver the Hedgehog, we can now able to actually experience Silver's storyline. Well, I will say this right now, in terms of the forms of the structure of this Let's Play this time around though, I'm actually going to be selecting Silver's story after we finish up with Sonic's story, because, relatively speaking though, I'm actually going to be following through the actual unlockable episode's requirements, so if you get the idea for this point. So even then though, this could be also applies for the forms of some DLC pieces as well, but then again we'll explain more about it if we continue proceedings for this. So, oh nice, I've got myself yet another S rank, so awesome, and relatively speaking though, we can able to guarantee to get some more rings due time, especially concerning for the fact that if you really want to get out of your way to able to get every single like items or power-ups in the game, then you get the idea for this point. So, but there's also another thing I would like to mention about it, although I should probably save that particular topic for later, because once we finish up with this particular town mission, I think, relatively speaking now, we can able to meet up with Knuckles. So, relatively speaking of Knuckles, there he is, right here.
Knuckles.
I saw Eggman on the outskirts of the city. He wanted me to give this to you.
Sonic the Hedgehog. If you want me to return the princess, you must give me your Chaos Emerald. Meet me at my base in White Acropolis.
Huh. He's pretty cocky.
It's most definitely a trap. I don't think Eggman will honor his agreement.
I'm going.
Sonic?
Since Eggman went to the trouble of telling me where Elise is, I think I should thank him personally.
Okay, so after receiving that particular message from Dr. Eggman, we must now head over to White Acropolis, which means that we must also head over to the next stage in this entire story. And something worth noting for is about the fact that, Jesus Louise, Dr. Eggman's design in this game looks absolutely hideous. Not just because of how the fact that he was thinner, and also his nose isn't pink, and on top of that, what is up with the forms of this ridiculous jacket he was wearing? Like, it was seriously ridiculous, and it's also completely over the top, and relatively speaking, as far as you probably already know, this game takes place in a photorealistic setting. So because of that though, yeah, I can totally see why that the graphics in this game does not age very well. It's actually aged rather poorly, I must say. So because of that, yeah, you probably get the idea of what I was expecting to explain any of these things. So, anyways, let's head over to this particular cave right there, but it's been blocked off by the forms of a whole bunch of laser gates. Or, yeah, you get the idea. So, and soon enough, we're able to actually go into yet another town mission. So that's technically 3 town missions we're going to be able to experiencing on for this particular part of this particular Let's Play. And as a result, we're now going to be jump right into open the cave gate. So, and what do we do with this mission exactly? Well, do you remember about the fact that we've already taken down certain enemies in the forms of Battle at the Warehouse? Well, we now need to deal with them again, except this time is actually ridiculously easy, and on top of that, the entire arena itself is a lot smaller. So because of that, hopefully we should be able to dish out any of those Eggman's robots down, and once we're done with that, and the cave has now been opened, so this means mission accomplished. So, anyways though, so yeah, something's worth noting for is about the fact that, as far as you probably already know, that did you know about the fact that it's been about 15 years ago, not just because of the forms of that specific Nintendo DS game that came out since 15 years ago, since in 2009, which appears to be Mario Luigi Bowser's Inside Story, that game has been officially became 15 years old just recently, but it's also with the forms of that specific channel called Disney XD, where basically Disney XD did somehow came out 15 years ago as well, ever since in 2009. Like, it's even crazy to ever think about it, although I do remember seeing that particular channel, likely for instance that we did somehow watch a whole bunch of Pokemon anime episodes on Disney XD, specifically the black and white animated series, as far as I'm aware. So, relatively speaking, that's as far as I can usually remember that.
The White Acropolis.
But anyway, there's a silver medal right there, in case if you're curious. And also, as you probably already know, there was actually that particular picture of Princess Elise on that specific secret room. So, I just want to give you a little bit of a heads up. So, anyways, let's jump right into the vaults of White Acropolis. Now, keep this in mind though, I don't suppose we can probably not going to be able to exploring for the forms of Soliana for a very long while, especially because we've got a whole bunch of levels to go through. So because of that though, yeah, let's get this level started, shall we? So, as far as I'm aware, White Acropolis basically takes place in a snowy environment, as you can definitely tell, and we must head over to Dr. Eggman's base. So, and it looks like we've immediately onto the forms of another gameplay style, which appears to be on a snowboard, like specifically Sonic is on a snowboard. And as a result, it feels very similar to the forms of in both Sonic Adventure and Ice Cap level, alongside with the forms of Sonic Adventure 2 in City Escape, where basically, for those two games, they are pretty fun when it comes to likely snowboarding downwards on the actual slope or the slanted hill in the snowy area and in the city. And relatively speaking though, in this game this time around though, is that, well, they've somehow budgeted things up. First off, the actual snowboard doesn't have any kind of momentum at all. Like, in order to go anywhere, you have to tilt the analog stick upwards so you can able to move forward. But if you try to tilt the analog stick left and right, you just go stop immediately. So, yeah, I can totally see why that— No! I missed the checkpoint, no! Ah, there's no turning back, isn't it? Ah, shoot. Fine, I'll just continue anyway. So, and also sometimes I will admit though, the camera can sometimes screw you up in this particular part right there, because as you can tell, the camera angle's now changed, so basically we need to tilt the analog stick downwards, so just in case you can able to continuously progress. So, once the camera suddenly shifts to this particular perspective again, then obviously you have to tilt the analog stick back to up. So it's a bit jumbled up mess sometimes, but it's even ridiculous though until whenever we get to the later on throughout the game, where basically sometimes the camera really messes you up, especially noticeable whenever we get to the later story. Like, yeah, you get the idea for this point. So, anyways, there's also another thing I want to mention. Did you guys know it's been 10 years ago since Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze on the Wii U version did somehow came out, ever since in 2014. Like, geez, it's been 10 years since that particular current Donkey Kong game ever been released. So, relatively speaking, oh gee, no wonder why we haven't exactly got anything new for Donkey Kong for a very long time. Which I'm not exactly sure why that's causing it though. I mean, despite the fact that we've already got the port onto the Nintendo Switch for the sake of Tropical Freeze, although nothing new added though, aside from Funky Mode, which is essentially the easy mode, but you probably already know what that is though, especially considering that, you know, Sonic and Knuckles have already finished that particular Let's Play up, ever since in about a week ago or something like that. And then exponentially speaking though, we can probably start able to continue playing for some more Donkey Kong games in the future. To be more specifically, I think next up we're able to be focused on, which appears to be either Donkey Kong Country for the Game Boy Color version, or Donkey Kong Country 2 for the Game Boy Advance, or exponentially DK King of Swing for the Game Boy Advance. So, although let us know in the comments down below of what you think about that particular Let's Play we are going to be doing next for Donkey Kong. So, anyways, let's go ahead and take control of Tails ever since enjoying the forms of Wave Ocean. So, obviously, the main emphasis on this stage, as you can tell, or specifically, the second section of this stage, is that, potentially speaking of, there's a whole bunch of searchlights. And think of like the forms, if you imagine if you're trying to play through Metal Gear Solid, for instance, well, Basically though, we need to dodge those searchlights, and if you get caught by the searchlights, exponentially it just somehow lets those enemies appear. So generally speaking though, it's about the fact that at least if you're trying to fly with tails, then you should be able to avoid those searchlights no problem. Although despite the fact that sometimes it gets tired out for, you know, Tails' flights sometimes, which I still really wish if it does have a fly meter. So, and also I don't know if you noticed, but this little Tails wishing sounds just gets a little bit annoying after a while, especially concerning for the fact that, well, potentially speaking it's about the fact that it's already bad enough that he moves much slower than he falls of how it does in Sonic Adventure. So, yeah, you get the idea. Also, I really love pulling off certain shortcuts right there, especially concerning for the fact that, well, this wasn't exactly what I was meant to be doing, but regardless of everything else though, I just love finishing certain stages quicker for the sake of the forms of convenience, and on top of that, I was so desperately want to get myself a glorious, fantastic S rank, but I can't help it for myself because of how the fact that, well, honestly, out of all the actual gameplay styles in Sonic 06, I enjoy playing Sonic the most, mainly because despite the fact that he doesn't run nearly as fast as he used to be, but I will admit though, I do like the level design for a bit. While some of these other segments not be that good, but even then, we'll explain more about that if we continue proceedings for this. I mean, for the most part, White Acropolis is okay all in all, but it's just that the snowboarding section is horribly butchered. So, and it seems to be more specifically is about the fact that I'm pretty sure we now made our way towards the end. Look how many rings I've got. I've got loads. Like, I know for a fact that there is that particular useful item that we can probably expect to get if we keep on getting some more S ranks in some stages anyway. Not all of them, mind you, because for whatever reason, on the PlayStation 3 version of Sonic 06, for some odd reason is that the PS3 version does not have any trophies, which I know for a fact that this game never gets updated on the forms of the PS3 version. I know for a fact that the Xbox 360 version does have a patch update or something, or perhaps even maybe something else. But I do know for a fact that the Xbox 360 version does have achievements, whilst the PlayStation 3 version does not contain any trophies. So, well, it wasn't until in 2009, on the other hand, where PlayStation 3 do start able to introduce trophies in 2009, which, can you believe it? It's been 15 years since when PlayStation 3 starts using trophies. Like, you know, time flies.
You're late.
Well, we had to deal with your little pets.
Where's Elise?
My, aren't we impatient?
Sonic!
You better not move. Now, the Chaos Emerald. Place it there.
Huh? What?
No! It's no use. It's too powerful for you to overcome. Now, allow me to introduce you to my latest creation. This is the Solaris prototype.
Oh my god, what's up with Eggman's eyes?
With this machine, we'll be able to control the flow of time itself. Rest assured, they're not dead. Yet. They've just been teleported by my glorious invention to another time. Who knows where they'll end up? It could be in the distant past or far future. But my machine still requires some fine-tuning. In fact, what my machine needs in order to be complete is your power.
My power?
Yes, I can finally complete my plans, now that I have the Chaos Emeralds and you. The Princess of Soliana. That's all I need to revive the flames of disaster. And with its power, I will be able to control everything and rule the world. So, you would be wise to remain on my good side.
Well, it looks like it's gonna be involved around time travel. Oh boy.
Oh! Boy, do I feel dizzy. Where are we?
Oh, look who's here. I didn't expect to see you guys.
Rouge! Shadow!
Hi, long time no see.
Okay, so not only we've bumped into Shadow the Hedgehog, but also with Rouge the Bat. So, yeah, kind of a coincidence that we did somehow bump into them too.
This is the distant future, far removed from our own timeline.
The future? Then that means Eggman's machine can control time!
Eggman's got some nerve dropping us here.
Now, how can we get back to our own time?
You need a space-time rift, but this requires a lot of energy. I see. You mean using your chaos control will... Yes, but that alone is insufficient. Okay, Shadow. It looks like we need to work together.
And somehow we've immediately jumped right into the next stage, which appears to be Crisis City. And for those of you probably wondering, yes, this stage might look a bit familiar to you, because if you ever played Sonic Generations before, basically that stage will be brought back into Sonic Generations in modern era. And the main objective on this stage right here is to find the database. So, relatively speaking though, just to find our way to able to travel back to present day, because it looks like we ended up in the future. So, relatively speaking though, yeah, this place is pretty much deserted, filled to the brim with a lot of explosions, fire, and you name the rest. So, relatively speaking though, I'm not gonna lie, that Crisis City is by far my favorite level in the entire game, for whatever reason. Not just because of the influence of the music, but it's also about the fact that, well, despite the game is a massive cluster mess, well, relatively speaking, I was about the fact that sometimes, I will admit though right away though, it's about the fact that you do need to worry about the influence of some very odd collision detection right here. Like, for example, on that ramp coming up, don't go on the middle, because otherwise if you dare go into direct center of that ramp, not only do you able to get hit by one of those enemies, but also you will die automatically thanks to the influence of this very wonky hit detection. So, relatively speaking though, I highly suggest you're able to go slightly to the left, or slightly to the right, depending on what direction you prefer. Well, unless if you want to get out of your way to able to go after all of those solely on those silver medals. Speaking of the silver medals though, actually, each and every single stage in this game does contain 10 of those silver medals in each level. 10 in each level. Not a simple easy number like 3 or 5, but 10. So, I suppose no matter what though, it's about the fact that we should probably explain about the forms of the gold medal system in this game. They are basically the equivalent to emblems in both Sonic Adventure, Sonic Adventure 2, and Sonic Heroes, where basically though, if you accomplish something, basically though you get yourselves a gold medal. However though, it grants you nothing, aside from the achievement for the Xbox 360 version specifically, because apart from the fact I've never actually accomplished that for myself, but hopefully I'll try to do that on the Xbox 360 version, because as far as I'm aware, like I said before, the PS3 version is completely lag on the trophies department, because, well, relatively speaking though, I have checked on the PlayStation 3 trophies menu, and as it turns out, Sonic 06 has not listed for trophies, which also applies to the forms of maybe Soul Calibur 4 and also Sega Superstars Tennis on the PlayStation 3 version, although you can still able to actually access to online from the likes of not only Soul Calibur 4, but also with the forms of Sacred Superstars Tennis. So I think that's what I was going to be thinking about this anyway. So anyways, let's go in to deal with these more homing attack chains, and I somehow missed that rainbow ring, but that's okay because I somehow be perfectly safe and use the light speed dash in the process. And did you know about the fact that I keep on getting a whole bunch of extra lives right there? Like, I know for the fact that this game can be kind of generous enough to able to give us some extra lives. Although something's worth noting for, unfortunately though, similar to the forms of how it does it in Sonic Adventure as well as Sonic Adventure 2, if you die at one point after obtaining the 1-up, unfortunately you can't recollect them because obviously the 1-up will disappear on those item boxes, so because of that though, yeah, it's kind of a bummer though. The only way you can able to get 1-ups though, alternatively though, is to keep on collecting some rings, specifically 100 or 200 or etc. So unless if you really want to go after the S rank, then you have to keep a hold of them at all times if you do have quite a larger amount of those rings. So yeah, that's as far as I can usually think about it. So, anyway, so let's just go ahead and go for this little loop-de-loop. So, even though this particular part is automated, so because of that, though, we don't have to take control of any of these things for the time being. Until, likely, for instance, about the fact that we might able to stumble across into... Something tells me we might as well come across into 4 loading screens on this particular level, which is this pretty lengthy as far as I'm aware. So, there's also another thing I want to mention about this, potentially speaking. I'm surprised that Sonic & Knuckles, including buddy forms of Tiana, completely forgot to mention about, or something like that. And that's what appears to be about the fact that, yes, let's just say Yokio, early days, collection has been announced for the Nintendo Switch and Steam. And as far as I'm aware, it does manage to contain 2 of those games specifically. One for the Game Boy Color and one for the Game Boy Advance. So for instance, about the fact that they'll contain Yokio Duel Monsters 4 Battle of Great Duelists for the Game Boy Color for the likes of 2000, I think so anyway. And in addition to that, they also decided able to contain Yokio Duel Monsters 6 Expert 2 for the Game Boy Advance in 2001. So, yeah, relatively speaking, I was about the fact that it's only been available in Japan, but from what I've noticed, it's also going to be confirmed for worldwide releases as well. So, yeah, a bit of a cool coincidence, so you can able to try those games out for that particular collection, or that collection in mind. Oh, and speaking of which though, it's about the fact that there's also another game has already been confirmed to its release date department, and that will have to be buddy forms of Rugrats Adventures in Gameland, and that's going to be releasing at some point until next month in March, and it's also been confirmed for the Nintendo Switch. So, nothing else to say about that, I guess. So, I should also mention about this as well, is that during the forms of Sonic Force's Speed Battle, whenever you decide able to get yourselves Valentine's Rouge, basically though, she does have some quite nifty items here and there, like for instance Love Struck, Confusion Boost, and Choc Lock. So yeah, that's something I suppose. I get it because of how the fact that they're trying to able to get those items based off on Valentine's Day, which as a result, yeah, that totally seems to be the case. So oh boy, we get into the forms of Mark Speed section again, ever since in Wave Ocean, and this is by far the hardest Mark Speed section in the entire game, in my opinion. Not just because of how the fact that you go straight, but it's also look how many stuff is thrown at you. I mean, how is it possible to complete this section of the stage without getting hit? I mean, usually relatively speaking though, if I see someone else out there who managed to complete the section of the stage without getting hit, I would love to see that. I'm sure a lot of people have already accomplished that, but if you really want to get out of your way to able to get the entire S rank on this run, well, good luck with that, because of not only because of how the fact that you attempt to get hit a lot, but also on the PlayStation 3 version, it lags a lot. But thankfully, on the results screen right here, the actual frame rate does not drop on the PlayStation 3 version, whilst unlike the Xbox 360 version, the frame rate drops a lot on the results screen. And look at that, I've got myself my glorious S rank on, let's just say, the most infamous stage in the entire game for most people out there. Especially concerning for the fact that if they somehow first got there, my goodness, they die a lot on this stage, mainly because of the forms of the Mark Speed section, and on top of that with this wonky things to be involved, but hey. And now we've somehow unlocked Episode Shadow, or specifically Shadow Episode, which I'll save that for later, because for now we're just going to be able to mainly focus on Sonic for now, and exponentially, once we finish up with Sonic, I think what I'm going to do is that I'm going to be focusing on Silver afterwards, and we should probably save Shadow's story for last, so you see what I mean.
No matter where we go, all we see are ruins. How can this be our future?
How could it come to this?
Could it be true? If I eliminate that guy, will our world be saved?
Wait a minute, is that Shadow?
The day of disaster. Here are my records of this event. This was when Iblis was freed, and his flames were released into the world.
Wait a minute, that does not sound like Shadow, and also his colors are wrong.
And you have this person to blame.
I see it! So that blue hedgehog's the Iblis trigger?
I guess that probably explains why Silver's attacking me.
Blue hedgehog.
Are you kidding me?
I'll send us back in time to the point when the Iblis trigger was alive. What the? Who was that guy? He looked just like Shadow.
This is terrible! According to the data, the princess died when she was kidnapped by Eggman. Apparently, Eggman's battleship exploded! The date of this incident was 2 days after the Festival of the Sun.
If we don't return in time, Elise will die on board Eggman's battleship. That means...
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so I'll go into more further details about the forms of Blaze the Cat in this game, because... oh my god.
You guys are so slow. Look.
A Chaos Emerald! You've already found one!
Well now, I may not look it, but I'm a real treasure hunter. Unlike a certain echidna I know.
What? Heh!
Have you guys discovered anything?
Yeah. I received a signal indicating there's a Chaos Emerald here, but...
You mean we've got to go through there?
If you don't like it, you can stay here.
You've got to be kidding.
Don't be late. Same to you.
Alright, so here we go on to... oh no, I absolutely despise this stage so much. Welcome to Flame Core, and... well, aside from the fact that there's one positive thing I can say about this stage, is the music. It's really, really good. But I will admit though, this level honestly sucks. Mainly because of multiple things. For one, hit detection can sometimes mess you up, and on top of that, in the beginning portion of this stage, well, it's fine at first, until you've realized after that specific series of loop-de-loops, you might able to come across into the very first issue of this stage. And, well, you probably already know what I was going to be thinking about. Like, for instance, about the fact that the volcano is erupting. This means about the fact that there's going to be a bunch of molten rocks that we definitely need to avoid at all costs. So, generally speaking, though, it's about the fact that you're going to get hit in this level a lot. So, generally speaking, though, it takes place in a lava environment. Kind of similar vibes as the forms of Crisis City. A little bit, except the fact there aren't any buildings to be found. So, yeah, I can totally see why a lot of people really hate this level so much. Clearly because of the forms of, not only for the sake of the forms of this very, very annoying mechanic with the forms of volcano eruption, but it's also about the fact that with these, fire circles, then it starts to turn on and start flaming. And generally speaking, they are very annoying to dodge sometimes. Even especially noticeable, you never know of how you're supposed to predict that. And also these very annoying enemies called these Iblis worms, they like to pop out of notice, and you might get surprise attacks way too much. And generally speaking, it's about the fact that I can totally see why that this level never brought back in the future Sonic games, potentially speaking including with Sonic Generations. I'm not exactly sure what specific levels they'll bring into for Shadow Generations, but then again, we'll have to wait and see what happens during at some point in sometime in autumn, because potentially speaking I'm still looking forward to that particular game. If we're able to replay for the game for Sonic Generations for 3 more times, for 3 versions specifically, as I was aiming for, because die-hard Sonic fans such as myself, including Super Mario as well. So generally speaking, that's as far as I'm concerned with this stuff. Oh, and another thing I want to mention about this as well, speaking of something Mario related, or in some cases Nintendo related, we actually got ourselves a full overview trailer from the likes of Splatoon 3 Side Order DLC. And as far as I'm aware, the actual gameplay style kind of reminds me of the forms of Challenge Tower from Mario Party Star Rush a little bit, as well as the forms of Bowser's Tower from Mario Party Island Tour, except the noticeable differences there. Although, kind of thinking about it, it's more accurately, it does kind of remind me of the forms of Endurance Alley from the likes of Mario Party 6, where basically though you have to go for a serious amount of floors, or in some sections anyway, and in order able to progress all the way to the top of the actual tower, then we must able to actually well, it also kind of reminds me of the forms of one of those moments in Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Lair, where basically though, if you do die at one point on that particular DLC in Splatoon 3 Side Order, I believe something tells me it's about the fact that we have to start all over again in this entire process. So, and generally speaking you can able to upgrade your life system, as well as some more capacity. So, relatively speaking it does kind of remind me like a similar vibe as in Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Lair. So, and yeah, I somehow lost a whole bunch of rings from the very first section of Flame Core. Can you see why about the fact that why I despise this level so much, aside from the music? Well, usually, relatively speaking, that's as far as I can usually explain about this kind of stuff. Now, I believe something tells me we might able to actually bump into yet another playable character as well. So generally speaking, it's about the fact that after all, we did somehow already play as not only Sonic, but also Tails as well so far. So generally speaking, maybe if it's a possibility, we can able to play as Knuckles in this. So, but either way, let's do a kick sweep on that specific Iblis monster creatures, and get that particular ring capsule right here to get some more rings. So, yeah, nothing else to say about that, I guess. So, and as far as I'm aware, is about the fact that we've only technically got 3 more Nintendo-related stuff for Nintendo Switch left, which there are, obviously, release dates for the likes of Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, and on top of that, Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door Remake on the Switch, and also maybe Metroid Prime 4, despite the fact that it's currently unknown in regards to the forms of Metroid Prime 4 for right now, because I think straight to the point that I'm pretty sure that a lot of people are about to be preparing for that prediction for the likes of Nintendo Switch 2 or Switch successors about to be approaching. Well, we shall see what happens, and during at some point in the next couple of weeks' time. Well, even then, no, that's as far as I can think about it. Oh, goodness gracious me, the actual room itself is now completely dark around here. So, in order to able to bring back light, we need to homing attack into one of those orb stuff. So, and it doesn't last for very long though, I will admit though right away, until you've realized about the fact that, well, usually relatively speaking, it was about the fact that if you leave those things on for too long, they attempt to break, and luckily they do respawn. So, yeah, that's as far as I can try to say about that, I guess. So, jeez, I got 25 extra lives. That's insane if you ask me. Especially considering for the fact that despite I basically know this game loads of times, ironically enough, well, generally speaking, I pretty much know exactly what to do. So, yeah, you probably get the idea of how my perspective goes for the sake of this game itself. So, anyways, let's go on here to go on to another rail grinding section. And, well, what a coincidence. We somehow bump into Knuckles. And, Well, Knuckles, suffice to say that he's horribly butchered. Like, his ground speed is horrendous, and the gliding is naturally heavy, and the combat is way more stiffer than the forms of how it does it since in Sonic Adventure 2, including Sonic Heroes as well. So generally speaking, I was about the fact that I was a little bit disappointed with Knuckles' gameplay style in this game, which, sadly to tell you, that he's a little bit more stiffer than the forms of how it does it on the previous Sonic games for sure. Although, to be fair though, we never actually come across into any annoying glitches in this game so far. Although generally speaking though, until coming up though, you see why whenever we get to the later portions throughout. So, plus, I will admit though right away, this stage is already long enough as it is. So, anyways, let's go in. Oh no. Oh, there goes my rings. No. Yeah, you see what I mean? Those stupid little fire circle things, they attempt to irritate the heck out of me. Well, regardless of everything else though, is about the fact that at least we're actually doing pretty well so far. Like, no deaths on this particular playthrough so far, which I've quite honestly surprised. Especially considering for the fact that, like I said before, I already know about this game loads of times, ironically enough. So generally speaking though, oh no, we've come across into our first glitch in the game, where basically Sonic just somehow stuck upside down on the loop-de-loop. Like, you see what I mean, this game has no polish. Like, you're gonna be running into any game-breaking glitches with this one. So, yeah, I'm basically gonna be discovering some of them most of the time. So, yeah, that's as far as I can say about it. Oh, dang it! There goes my rings! Oh, I'll just grab a couple. I highly doubt I don't know if I can get my S rank though, because I keep on getting hit multiple times, which is kind of unfortunate though. But let's just see what rank I've got. Oh, so close to get an S rank. I was off by 450 points. That seems kind of... oh well, I'll take an A, I guess. A is better than nothing, I suppose. So yeah, I should suffice to say, I think we should probably end things off this point right here. So join me next time for more of Let's Play of Sonic the Hedgehog 2006, is that we're going to be able to deal with probably the next boss fight in the game. So I'll see you guys then.